Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and we've got a really cool guitar player today. This guy's a go-getter if there ever was a go-getter. We're with Joe Robinson, and let's talk about Joe. I'll tell you his background, and we'll have a nice conversation to see what's going on. 27-year-old Australian Joe Robinson's a virtuoso guitarist and singer-songwriter. He walks a tightrope between the instrumental music that put him in the spotlight and a unique fusion of vocally based rock, blues, jazz, and R&B that's entirely his own. He started playing guitar at age 9, quitting piano lessons he'd been taking for the last 3 years, and he quickly outpaced his guitar instructor and began educating himself through the internet. At just 13 years old, he won the Australian National Songwriting Competition. I'm going to say that again because it's easy to gloss that over, but it's pretty serious shit. At 13, he won the Australian National Songwriting Competition. And I imagine, Joe, it's not because there was only 10 people entered. Right?
Well, you never know. I mean, I didn't. I was in high school at the time, and my music teacher was like, "Hey, Joe, you should submit a song for this." And I put one in, and lo and behold, I won. It was really cool.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Within a couple of years, he was touring regularly and sharing stages with artists such as Tommy and Phil Emmanuel, both of whom served as mentors. He released his first album of original material called Birdseed in 2005 at the age of 15. When a 16-year-old Robinson burned through a Chet-inflected medley of Day Tripper and Lady Madonna at the opening round of the 2008 Australia's Got Talent television series competition, the entire house, including the judges, gave him a standing ovation. He went on to win $250,000 at age 18 with his take on Tommy Emmanuel's arrangement of Classical Gas. That is a really involved song, let alone to play Tommy's arrangement of it. Tommy then invited him to Nashville, where, among other things, he hooked up with Brad Paisley's producer, Frank Rogers, who helmed his 2009 release, Time Jumpin'. That same year, Joe was awarded the title of Senior Grand Champion Performer of the World at the World Championships of Performing Arts in Hollywood. He's also performed at Bonnaroo and was voted Best New Talent in the Guitar Players Readers Poll. He spent the last few years touring North America and abroad, including China, Japan, Europe, and Australia, playing festivals and headlining clubs, displaying his virtuosity on electric as well as acoustic guitar. And he landed a coveted spot of one of Australian Guitar Magazine's top 50 best guitarists. And you're only 27. This is awesome. Robinson... Huh?
I'm actually 26.
You're 26. I have genes older than
believe
you,
it or not. I hope I'm not 27. I'm pretty sure I'm 26.
All right. Well, that's up for debate, Joe. But either way, it's a pretty good deal, man. Robinson's Let Me Introduce You, produced by Rogers, which is Brad Paisley's producer, Frank Rogers, and released in 2011, encompasses influences from Sweet Baby James to Django Reinhardt. I've been meaning to make an album like this from the start, Joe said, so after spending years touring as a solo instrumental guitarist, I wanted to push myself in another direction. After touring as a soloist for quite some time, Joe toured predominantly with his own trio over the course of the last few years. However, recently, he's committed to a new solo show featuring both electric and acoustic guitar, and this amazing new show is touring now. His latest music project, Gemini Volume 2, is a 4-track EP released in 2015 that features his deepest and most creative work to date. Robinson played all the instruments, produced, and mixed the project himself. In addition to touring on his own, Joe's been hitting the road with Guitar Army, which features fellow master guitarists, singers, and songwriters Robin Ford and Leroy Parnell. Joe toured with Tommy Emmanuel during early 2017 and is also writing for an upcoming studio album. Dude, how the hell do you have time to go to the bathroom, let alone come on this show with all this going on? Thank you so much for your time, man.
Oh, yeah. No, thanks, Craig. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me? So let me ask you some you've done a lot in a little bit of time. And one thing that I was thinking as this was going, and I didn't write this question down, was how have you balanced all this? Because, I mean, and I say this in a favorable way, not a demeaning way, you're a kid. I mean, you're my kid's age. Has this been a tough thing for you to make sure that you're having fun, but you're still enjoying being a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely an obsessive person, and
Right.
I'm obsessed with music. I've always been, that way ever since I was like 11 or 12. I knew I wanted to be a musician and the best musician I could be. So for me, I'm so grateful to be on this journey, and I live in Nashville, and it's the kind of place where you can be really inspired 24/7. So I really just try and work as hard as I can, because I think it's kind of I feel like I owe it to myself to try and make use of my opportunities.
Yeah. So in other words, you've been given a gift, and you just want to make sure you can, kick the snot out of that gift, or whatever energy's left to absorb everything it's in there for you. While you can.
And the gift is, being healthy and being really passionate about what I do, and being able to do it. And I'm really grateful for that. So I try and make the most of it, and stay busy, and that's kind of what makes me happy.
Good. So it seems like Tommy Emmanuel has been a great mentor to you. And I was curious, I'm sure there's many, you could probably have an episode on just this question alone, but what are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned from him? And not just, I don't mean like about playing guitar. I mean, musically, business-wise, and, life-wise.
Yeah, well, I've learned so much from Tommy. The first time I met him, I was 11 years old. And I just remember seeing him on stage with his brother Phil, who was like kind of my first guitar hero. And I saw them together on stage, and it just changed my life. It's like this moment. I was sitting in that audience, and it was like lightning struck me. It was just this moment of, I have to figure out how to do that. Yeah. And this is what I've been searching for. This kind of power in the way, especially Tommy played as a kind of one-man show, so he really, I feel like he changed my life musically. And, the first time I came to Nashville was at his invitation to spend a little time and just see what it's like here. And when I first got here, he welcomed. I was with my mom, and he welcomed us, and he sat me down, and I played him a few songs, and he said, "Now, Joe," he said, "you've got to work on your timing." And he said, "And these songs you've written," he said, "they need better melodies. They need a clearer melody." And I was kind of a little bit crushed, because I'd come all the way to Nashville, and I'm meeting like my hero, and he's telling me all these things I need to work on, and I'm so grateful for that advice.
Oh yeah, for sure,
because
man.
I still, the other day I watched an interview with him, and he just inspires me so much. He's so natural with people. He's such a great, personable fellow. He's such a great inspiration and guitarist all over the world. And I really am grateful that I grew up in the same era as him, I think.
Is he in Nashville, or does he live in Australia?
He lives in Nashville, yeah.
I could understand how you felt, and I'm sure in retrospect, now he gave you a great gift telling you that, because you'll never write a song again, ever, the rest of your life without considering those two items, which is, what he was telling you, that's core fundamentals for songwriting. Your melody's got to be clearer, and your timing's got to be cleaner. That's great, man. That's a fantastic thing to learn. Has he taught you anything about the business itself?
Well, not directly. Although, I spent almost 5 years touring with a trio. So with a bass player and drummer, and I've since gone back to the solo touring model, which is what Tommy does. Although he collaborates with a lot of great musicians, he's on tour at the moment with David Grisman, and I think for me, the best way to present my music is as a solo performer. And obviously that's economically a very different arrangement than touring with 3 or 4 people.
Sure.
So I think, I feel I'm a kindred spirit with Tommy in a lot of ways, in that we're both suited to that, I think, somehow. And so that motto of touring as a one-man show, I think, has been something I've taken from him. And the same as like Ed Sheeran, for example. I see him on stage doing that, and that's what I do, just in a different way.
Sure. Yeah, that is obviously a more financially advantageous model. That being said, you're carrying 100% of the, everything's on you. But I don't know you very well, but I get the feeling that's not an issue, nor that has never been an issue, because you're pretty responsible and accountable for yourself.
Yeah, no, for me it's easier not having other people to kind of mess things up, and totally not having to worry about the other elements. If you have control of everything, it's easier. And for me, even more than financially, it's a stronger connection with people, I think. And my music is very nuanced, and when there's drums banging away, you kind of lose the nuance in like a theater, for example. So it's I think it's just the right way to present my playing and my music, and it's the same for Tommy, I think.
You've won a number of high-profile contests, and first of all, congratulations, especially at those young ages. It's
Thank you.
I was curious though. You're 18 and you get $250,000. What did you do with the money? Like, were your parents listen, this is, you buy a house, or you put it in the back, what did you want? If you're comfortable sharing, and if not, that's totally cool as well.
Yeah, no worries. No, it was, I was actually 17, and it was an amazing moment in my life. And it kind of seems like another lifetime ago. I was 16 when I first went on the show. So I literally just turned 17. And, I grew up in Temerog, New South Wales, Australia, which you can Google, and it's about 30 minutes outside of Kempsey, which is considered one of the more socially disadvantaged areas in the east coast of Australia. So to be a teenager and have that kind of a windfall was a huge moment. A huge deal. And my parents were so great. They've always been so great. They've done nothing but encourage and support me. And with that money, I moved to America. I wish I have had more financial understanding, because it was right around 2008.
Oh, right before everything took a shit in the recession.
And I could have bought a bunch of stock and done really well, potentially. I kind of wish I had more people around me who could have given me advice on investing the money better. But I moved to the States, and I got myself set up here. I made a couple albums and financed them myself, and it was. Probably the biggest gift that show gave me was it allowed me to get a visa to move to America.
Yeah.
Because that can be a really challenging thing for people from other countries. And, I got a visa and moved here and started playing shows, and eventually got set up here and gave me a place to start my career.
And I think, because I've had buddies who've done that over the years, and isn't some of the thing like, you can't make money doing anything but music or performing or something like that? Or there's a lot of restrictions on it, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends on your visa, of course. And some people have green cards and move a spouse, or visa and move a spouse, and the spouse can't work, and there's things like that. But for me, I got an O1 visa, which is for people of extraordinary ability. So for actors and musicians and athletes, I guess. And that show really kind of kind of gave me some credentials, because aside from that, I just played in a bunch of bars. I played like 1,000 gigs in Australia before that time. So,
wow.
I mean, I was just like, have guitar, will travel, Joe. That was me.
Yeah. But I mean, you paid your dues like everybody else, and so I'm glad you got that opportunity. That's great.
Thanks.
How is touring here in the States different from touring in Australia? And how is it different from touring in other countries like China, Japan, and other places you've been? Because I've heard it's dramatically different.
Yeah, but I wasn't born in America, so America feels like a different country.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
To me,
okay.
which is a funny thing. I would say in America, music plays a different role in people's lives here than I think in a lot of other places. People seem to really fall in love with a song and fall in love with an artist and follow them. And in Australia, I see there's more of a festival scene, so people like to go out and see music and have a kind of a party experience. In China, there's the novelty of you being someone from the West, and people don't get exposed to that every day, so it's different. In Japan, the audiences are very incredibly attentive, respectful. In Europe, they're very attentive also generally. In America, I think there's great PA systems everywhere. There's great engineers. It's just set up for a lot of touring and a lot of music. So I love being based here. I love playing here, and it's a great experience to travel to different places and perform.
When you came to visit Tommy, is that like the motivation? Then you said, "Hey, I need if I'm going to move to the States, I need to move to Nashville because of the music hub here or there."
Yeah, I wanted to move to America because it's the biggest music market in the world, and there's just so many great musicians here. I wanted to be around that. And the first time I came to Nashville, I went door knocking on Music Row.
Oh, you did?
So,
looking for gigs?
Well, I just wanted to meet people. I was about 15 or 16, and I came over with my mom. It was the time we met Tommy, and originally I was staying in this really sketchy hotel. There was like crack addicts in the stairwell, and
nice.
It was really a bad part of town. It was booked through the internet or something, and I had like two names.
Wait a minute. Did they have claims on there like "you'll love your stay" or stuff like that?
No, it was some sketchy thing like that.
Oh my!
It obviously wasn't booked by a local. Is what I mean.
Yeah.
But I had two names to see aside from Tommy, and one of them was Jeff Walker, who unfortunately passed away recently, and he was a great champion of Australians and Canadians, especially Australians and Canadians. In Nashville, he was kind of the international connection. And another man was Ralph Murphy, who was at ASCAP, and I came into town, and Jeff booked us a hotel, my mom and I, closer to Music Row, and plugged me into a few people, and I would just go and meet people. And I'd say, I just want to play in town and write and record and meet people. And, I was 15. I was just kind of wide-eyed, and the whole thing was, I grew up out in the bush. We got hot water when I was 10. So Nashville was like this far away.
You were literally like Crocodile
place.
Dundee, like the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so I went door knocking, and I had this notepad, and I met with like 30 or 40 people in the music business here, and everyone was so nice, everyone was so friendly, and that really stuck in my mind. And I came here when I was 18 to record an album, my album Time Jumping, and I just decided that I got offered some gigs, so I needed a visa. So I got the visa, and then the visa was for 3 years. And so I thought, well, I'll rent an apartment here for a while and record my album and stay and see if I can get some gigs. And 7 years later, I'm still here.
That's great.
So that's how it came about.
And they have running water, hot water.
Oh, they got all the modern luxuries here. It's great.
Well, that's good, man. That's a nice story. So, what are you working on now that's got you most excited, Joe?
Well, this year I've been writing a lot of songs. I've had like 80 co-writes and created a lot of material. And I recorded for 2 days in a great studio just up the street from me, the Castle, and recorded bass and drums. And I'm doing all the overdubs for that album at the moment, and really am enjoying getting new music ready to be shared with the world again, because it's been a while.
That's great, man. How do you like? Did you get a chance to go to record in studios in Australia?
Yeah, I made my first album at a studio in Australia, and there are great studios all over the world, of course. But man, Nashville is an amazing place to record. There's so many studios. The caliber of musicians and engineers and everything is just world class. It's great.
And the work ethic, the speed with which stuff is processed is phenomenal, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, people are used to doing it every day here, and there's not a lot of cities like that where there's a real concentrated music industry and community operating functionally, and Nashville is a great place like that.
I was up there last week just for a holiday, and Rob McNally was nice enough to invite me to the studio, and it was phenomenal to watch these guys in 3 hours make 5 songs, and in some case it was literally making chicken salad out of chicken shit. I mean, they just it was just phenomenal. This is 30 minutes, boom. We connected through Mike Durham. Yes.
And when I first came to Nashville, I used to go and watch Mike play at the Tap Room with my friend Pat Bergeson.
He's an amazing player, Mike.
Yeah. He's great and a great guy, and I was asking him questions about how he's playing all this great stuff he's playing, and he's like, oh man, he's like, you want to come to a demo session? Come along tomorrow. I'm recording. It's for this songwriter, and we'll be recording. I think it was 2 sessions that day, so 2 3-hour blocks, and they recorded 12 songs or something, right. And I went in, and there's 2 guitars, there's pedal steel, there's fiddle, there's acoustic guitar, there's drums, there's bass. It was so amazing to just sit at the back and just watch all this go down. And all the musicians would come in at the beginning of each song, and they'd listen down, and they'd all make notes on a chord chart. Yep. And they'd go in and they'd play it perfectly. And then the steel player would say, I need bar 61 again, and then he'd punch it in, and it was just such a cool thing to see. And that's a really amazing process that Nashville has. And Mike was the first guy that kind of introduced me to that world.
That's funny. Yeah, he's a phenomenal player. I don't usually get to hear people play, but after our call, we got along very well. We were talking, and on a whim, he picks up his guitar, and I'm like, my jaw hit the freaking desk when I heard him play, because he's such a. You just assume someone's going to be who's going to play like that is going to have this monstrously large personality. And Mike's just a humble, just a real nice, easygoing guy. But man, when he picked up that freaking guitar, holy crap. Wow. Yeah,
he's an awesome musician.
Okay. So what was the name of this? Tagalog? Temagog. Sorry about that.
That's it. Yeah, no worries.
What was your childhood like growing up there? Do you have brothers and sisters, or?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of 4 children, and I feel like I grew up like people did in America, many, many years ago. It was very, very rustic environment. we had no electric cooking. It was wood. No heating or cooling. Just cold water until 2001.
That's amazing.
And, we had chickens and sheep and cows, horses, about 100 acres, and a TV that was about the size of a dinner plate that had 2 TV channels, and they were both fuzzy. Wow. And it was located like 10 feet in the air on this big shelf. And we weren't allowed to watch it during the week.
So your family were they farmers or like agriculture?
Yeah. I mean, it was like a family, like a hobby farm, I guess you'd call it, where
Sure.
we grow our own food. Sometimes we'd sell a steer or two, but it wasn't really a commercial farm in any way. But we grew our own eggs. We had this gardening system, so we'd go to the grocery store and we'd buy like some things and freeze them. But I never had Coca-Cola or fast food or any of that stuff until I was much older.
Yeah, but
I was an adult, really.
Honestly, that's probably a good thing because I don't need any of that crap. That stuff is just garbage, man. But I know as a kid, it was probably like very frustrating not having access to that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, I didn't really care about that stuff. It was I felt like it was a little bit boring.
Yeah.
just having nothing to do with being up in the bush, as we say. But for me, like once I remember the first time I got like some gigs out of the area, because my parents played music in bands, so I was around musicians and the gig environment a lot. But I got an opportunity to play with this singer named Texas Rose at the Tamworth Country Music Festival. And this is the first time I met Tommy and Phil. This is all in that same trip. And I went to Tamworth, and I played like 10 shows in 5 days. And I think I got paid $1,000 or something. And I was just like, I was 11. I was just like, okay, this is what I need to do. I bought a new guitar, and I would go back to Temagog and I would sit there up in the bush and being like, oh man, how can I get another gig somewhere else and go somewhere? And I went back home to the farm. I was home in August in Australia doing a few gigs, and I went back there, and I just remember this feeling of being like, man, I've got to get out there. I've got to make something of myself. And I think that environment really, really helped kind of plant that seed in me that I still have.
Wow, that's a great story. So it's really like a rags to kind of like a rags to riches story. What do you think? Sorry, I just got a cord underneath me. What do you think drove you? Like, because this clearly was more than like an emotional. Playing music didn't just change your life emotionally, sort of. This changed everything about your entire destiny. But what do you think drove you to that? Because oftentimes when you grow up in a certain way, that cycle is never changed for generation after generation after. It's just, that's what you know, and and that's how you behave. And I'm not judging anything. I'm just saying that's the reality of how people, you grow up in a certain way. If you grew up in an alcoholic family, unfortunately, you tend to become an alcoholic. If you grow up in a really rural setting, you tend to stay in that rural setting. But you were clearly very driven to go beyond what was familiar. What do you think that's attributed to? What was in it for you emotionally? What was the driver? Well,
it's a difficult thing to describe, but let me first say, my parents, I think, did an amazing job raising each one of my siblings and myself. I'm very grateful for my upbringing. They were kind of like somewhere, like my dad's kind of like this. He's like a great surfer, but he also loves to farm. And they're kind of hippies in that they like to live out from town and kind of grow their own food and do their thing. but they're very intelligent people.
Yeah, it's just a lifestyle choice they've made that's in their comfort zone. They want to be kind of off the grid and, maybe some rebellion streak in there, whatever it is. I totally get that. But why were you different? Well,
I think this is my way of doing what they did. For me, like, I've always been very competitive. And I remember going to sleep at night before I even played the guitar. I was probably eight years old or something, and I was like, I'm either going to be the best rugby player, like Darren Lockyer, who is my favorite rugby player, or I'm going to be a rock star, the greatest musician in the world. And I remember going to bed at night thinking that, and I always I feel like it was built into me to like just want to really be great at something, and for me, music was the obvious thing that's kind of just that's what I'm born to do somehow, I think. So
that's great, man. I appreciate you sharing that. That's a really good story, and I like what you said as far as that was your way of doing what they did.
Yeah,
and I give them credit for recognizing that, and you said how supportive they were, because a lot of people, would have been like, well, you can't leave because, they were as, what's honorable about that is that they were as open-minded with you as they were with themselves when they were younger, and that's often not the case, so that's credit to all of you guys. And my next question was, you got a great work ethic. Where do you think this came from? But I think this is all part of it. It's that that dream you had, thinking I got to do this, whatever, put this thing in your head. And
and it didn't come from nowhere. Like, my parents would be like, Joe, get up and split the wood. Joe, harden up, princess. it was this kind of like, Joe, we got to cut the testicles out of this sheep. Come and
yeah.
Come and do some fencing with Dad. Like, I grew up in the, on a property where that work ethic was kind of just expected. And, I'm the oldest of my siblings. So
the burden of that primarily fell to you.
Yeah. That's just kind of built into my nature. But, I do see a lot of people that don't have the work ethic that I have, and sometimes I think, man, that'd be nice to not be just obsessively driven. But by the same token, I'm a really happy person, and I really love what I do, and I read obsessively about people that I respect and admire, and I really identify with a lot of people who have done great things in the world. So that's that all plays into I think the way I was raised, and I'm grateful for it.
Well, and success is not a casual thing. You can't accidentally become successful. You've got to deliberately do certain things, and underlying that is working your freaking ass off, to be honest with you, in any endeavor, whatever it is. There's no it's a lot more than fogging a mirror in the morning. You got to really bust your ass. Let's talk gear for a few minutes. Oh, actually, no, I want to ask you this one question. And I normally never ask this to someone your age, but you've had, 20 years of experience almost, like, at your age. If you can go back and give advice to younger Joe Robinson, what advice would you have given yourself?
Well, I would say to read earlier. I wish I had read more earlier, because I've really just gotten this kind of reading kick, a year or two, like a couple of years ago. I would say that, and also two other things. One is to appreciate the moment, because at the time when all these cool things were happening, I just was like, oh, great, let's keep going, and I kind of wasn't able to really appreciate fully the moment, I think. And the other thing is, never trust a philosopher who isn't an athlete. That's kind of a statement that I live by. these days. And I think it's really important to seek advice from great people. I've kind of I kind of wish I had done that in certain aspects, but by and all, I'm really happy with the place I'm in, and I'm grateful to be doing what I love. That's
great. When you say never trust a philosopher who isn't an athlete, you mean it's anybody could talk shit. Trust the people that are out there doing it. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I grew up playing in bars, and there'd be always some drunk guy being like, "Oh man, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that." And you know what? I like that people that care enough about you to want to help you out and all these things. But the best choices I've made have been kind of based on really great people who've given me good advice, and oftentimes I've asked for it, and sometimes I've just subconsciously kind of modeled my life after what a given person has done. But I think that's an important thing that's easy to kind of forget.
Do you have a hard time asking people for advice, or does that come easy to you?
No, it comes easy to me. I mean, I try and seek it out, and I read a lot of books too. So I learn a lot from reading biographies of great people, and when I was younger, I would just I'd be the kid at the party. I'd go to these parties, and in Australia, parties are very different. So I think here parties go for 4 days.
Yeah, that's different. Wow.
And I'd go to these parties, and there'd be music happening every hour of the day, and everyone's drinking and having a great old time and passing out on the floor, and and I'd go up to everyone and say, "Hey man, hey, can you listen to this? Let me play Mr. Sandman. Listen to it. Tell me what you think. Like, does it sound good to you? What song should I learn?" And I grew up in a community where there was a lot of great musicians, and there's a lot of people who were passionate about music, and these people exist all over the world, I think. And people would be like, "Oh, Joe, you got to learn this song, or you got to listen to this guy, you got to listen to Steve Morse, Joe, or you got to listen to Aldi Meola," or I found it easy to just. Well, I think I was just so passionate about music.
Yeah.
If anyone was interested in it, I would pick their brain and be annoying and ask a million questions. That was just my nature, and I'm still like that a bit, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's a really great thing to ask a lot of questions, I think.
No, it is, and you're an eager enough guy that people will be very receptive to helping you, because someone's going to meet you, and you can tell pretty easily that you're sincere and you're not dicking around, and whatever issues, whatever you want to learn about, you're going to go take it and run with it. So people like helping people like that. The worst is like when someone who's got no intention of doing anything is going to just waste your time, and you're like 180 degrees opposite to that. So yeah, I was just curious about that. Gear, what's your go-to guitar right now? And maybe what other 2 guitars of yours would round up your top 3?
Well, acoustic guitar-wise, I play Maton guitars, and I don't even own any other acoustic guitars. I just love. I have a custom shop Maton that was made for me from a few years back, and it's my favorite instrument that feels like an extension of me. That's my go-to guitar.
Spell that. Is Maton?
Yeah.
And they're out of Australia?
Yep.
Is that a custom maker?
No, they're a pretty major manufacturer, making tens of thousands of guitars a year.
Are they like the Martin or Taylor of Australia?
Yeah, you could say that. That they're, I think Martin guitars are really classic and great, and I think Maton guitars are equally classic and great. Taylor guitars I've never connected with, but the Maton guitars, they just they're really, really great. And my guitars are custom made in their custom shop, but they have a lot of production line guitars that I have a few of and use, and they're spectacular guitars.
Awesome.
So
awesome. And how about electric?
My go-to electric guitar right now is a Gretsch White Falcon Junior. So it's like a White Falcon except shrunken, and man, that guitar is really, really just got a thing. I love it. And another couple of guitars that I use, I have a Strat, which was a custom shop Strat that was built for me. I spec'd out, and it's like a 63 base model Strat. Mm-hmm. And I also have a 64 SG that Robin Ford gave to me.
Wow.
That's you know, I'm talking about these guitars because I'm in the studio at the moment doing overdubs, and those are really the three electric guitars that I use. I have a Telly too that you know I've had for a long time and I use a lot, but those three are my current go-tos.
What made you pick? You said it was a 64 Strat custom.
It's a 63 base model Strat.
What made you pick that model as opposed to like a 57 or a 69 or 52 or whatever?
Well, you know, I had the opportunity to custom build a guitar at the custom shop, and I went to all the guitar stores in Nashville, and I played all their custom shop Strats, and I was like, oh, I like the frets on this, oh, I like the neck on this, I like the weight of this, and I connected with the 60s Strats, and to me, like, you know, 50s Strats with a maple neck, they have a great thing. It's totally different guitar than like a 60s style rosewood fretboard Strat, but that was the sound I wanted, and I got quite a beefy neck because I have large hands in it, and that's what I like. I have a Telly that it's like a 50s style Telly, and it has a really big neck, so that's what I was used to, and it has a modern radius and 6105 frets, and that was just kind of the guitar that I really was wanting to get.
That's the one that connected with you best.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your are there any cool or interesting stories behind you acquired any of your guitars besides that one that, you know, Robin Ford gave you? That's a pretty cool story right there. Yeah,
you know, that's probably the coolest story. Friend of mine gave me this Casio MIDI guitar the other day, and it doesn't work. I got to get someone to repair some kind of capacitor or something like that. But you know, sometimes I get cool guitars, but through, you know, friends who are like, hey, check this out. But for the most part, you know, my acoustics are Maton that I got from them, and my electrics usually in the Fender and Gretsch realm, except for the SG, which is obviously a real special instrument to me.
Oh yeah, Robin Ford gave you that SG. Yeah, that's something to hang on to. Who are your biggest influences guitar wise? Obviously Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy is a huge influence, and you know, I'm sure you can hear it in my playing. It's definitely, I feel like I learned music through learning how to play his arrangements, and you know, Eric Clapton was also a really big influence. When my dad had Eric Clapton's Unplugged songbook and used to play all those songs, and I learned all those pretty early on. So that was you know, a big catalyst to me, you know, learning to play the guitar. And growing up around the house was Ry Cooder, Rory Gallagher,
you know
JJ Cale.
Let's talk about Rory for a minute, because I've seen he's a phenomenal guitar player. I mean, he's just off the charts phenomenal. And everything I've tried to read as much as I can about him to find out why he is like sort of under the radar outside of, you know, obviously he's deceased now, but he's kind of like a tragic figure, kind of like Roy Buchanan, in that you know, he just didn't want to do records. He just felt any kind of like somebody telling him what to do is,
Yeah, there's a cool documentary. Well, it's not really a documentary. It's like a collection of live performances. I don't know exactly how to get it. I have it like on a burnt DVD somewhere. And, I grew up listening to his, like we had a cassette tape of his songs, and I just loved the songs and his playing. And he just had a kind of spirit with his music that was really, really special to me. And I just, I love what he did.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, you listen to him and you say, man, I don't need to play anything but a Strat. Because he's so complete, he's like a Hendrix kind of guy. You listen to that, you're like, why am I playing something else? And obviously we all play different guitars for different reasons, and you feel like playing this one day and that the other day. But he was just one of those guys. He had such total command over his instrument. I feel it's just amazing, and it's just a shame where, when people talk about great guitarists, his name doesn't come up more, because he was truly phenomenal.
Yeah, well, maybe it's not important to him. It wasn't important to him to be kind of hailed. Like I think, in his native land, he's more of a kind of household name.
Mm-hmm. Like a Gary Moore, same thing. Although Gary was a lot more popular, but yeah, in Ireland, Gary Moore and what's his name from Phil Lynott, and Rory are all very popular.
Yeah, there's so many talented people that people discover years after they died. I'm like Eva Cassidy.
Oh, beautiful.
Like, man, she was spectacular. Apparently, she just played in all these little clubs in DC. That's amazing. She was really special, I think.
Very much so. And she died. I think it was like breast cancer or something like that at a young age.
Yeah.
What's something you've learned about yourself along this journey you've been on?
Well, I'm still learning every day about oneself. I think knowing yourself is one of those valuable things you can spend your time thinking about. I've learned that I think differently than a lot of people seem to do, and I'm trying to turn that into an advantage.
In what way? Expand on that.
Well, I don't really know how to explain it, but just the way my mind processes things, and the way I create songs, and the way I create recordings, the whole process of my creativity is whenever I collaborate with somebody, I kind of realize that I think differently. So I think I'm learning to understand that better and know myself better, and learn how to put myself in positions where I can really be able to make the most progress. That's pretty vague. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is, Joe. I'm glad you. Yeah, I was just. So, do you mean the way musical ideas come to you, or the way you communicate those ideas?
Well, I think communication is not something that is real natural to me. I think I have everything in my head is formed already. So when I sit down and come up with a song, I already know all the parts that I'm going to play. I already know how it's all going to fit together, and explaining that doesn't come natural to me. Playing it and creating it does, but so someone gave me the advice one time that you should find what's unique about yourself, concentrate it and exaggerate it.
Right.
And I just am spending more time trying to understand what makes me different and how to accentuate that.
Yeah, that's good that you're aware of that. You're also only 26, so cut yourself some slack as far as like if your ability to communicate or to communicate certain
Yeah,
things.
you know, I have a lot of friends who are older, and I've always been like, if someone would come up to me when I was 14 and be like, "Oh, you're pretty good for 14," I always hated that. I wanted to be good no matter how old I was. And for me, I don't think of myself as being a 26-year-old person. I think of myself as being a person on this earth, just like everyone else. And I mean, there's definitely like life lessons and things that come with getting older. But I think it's really not of merit to think of myself in terms of my age.
No, and I get that. And what I was saying is that not for how do I communicate this? The reality is, at least for me, my reality has been there's certain things that the more you live, the easier they come. For me, communication was definitely one of those. And I think for like most people I know, and I'm the same way as you, I always have a really high bar, and I would have been like pissed off if someone said to me, you know, well, you're 26. I would have been like, well, fuck you. I'm not thinking like all the other 26 years old. I want to be, you know, my bar is here. But in reality, you know, my limits existed there that don't exist now, that I hope in 10 years from now will be even higher, you know? And it's just, you know, that's for me anyway. That's what I have found. So,
Yeah.
you know, I meant that in a empathetic way, not in a like a pity way. Like, well, Joe, you know, you're only 20. Yeah, I meant it. You know, I meant it because I understand how you're feeling. Because I often thought the same way. I don't want to. You know, it's like, you know, I work out and I try to stay in good shape. And you know, I hate when someone says to me, "You're in good shape for your age." Well, of course I'm in fucking good shape for my age, because everybody my age looks like they're dead. You know, I mean, go on Facebook. You know, I mean, that's not my standard. My standard is like, well, I'm in the gym and I see people that are taking care of themselves. You know, so I totally get what you're saying, man. But that was my reality.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you. And you know, communication probably does come a lot easier with age. You know, as with just a lot of things that come with life experience. So yeah. And that's a good point.
Yeah, totally. Tell me something about yourself that people would either be surprised to hear or would find a little odd.
A little odd. Well,
besides that, you grew up with no heat or no electricity or warm water until you're 10, because that is very different.
Yeah, I take freezing cold showers.
Really?
I eat sardines.
I eat sardines.
I wake up at 4 a.m. if I'm in a cycle of the year in which I can do that, because sometimes I have shows and I have other things, and that's not really possible. But I love to get up super early, and I don't know if those things are people who really know me are like, yes, that's what he does. But yeah. I definitely have some people that think the sardine thing is weird. But
eating
I love
sardines, yeah, sardines are great. I eat sardines.
Yeah, see, man, that doesn't surprise me. Like, we're onto something, man. They're good.
We'll have to hang out in Nashville and pound some sardines. We'll go to look at this shirt I'm wearing, man. Hot chicken, Hattie B's. We'll have to go there and ask for some fried sardines. Most important person in your life, Joe, and why?
You know, either my mom or my dad, for different reasons. Why? I feel like I'm very much like both of them, and I'm really grateful for the way I've been raised, and grateful for the genes I have, I guess. And I think everyone should be, because it's a pretty amazing thing.
What is your non-musical superpower?
My non-musical superpower.
Yeah, like everybody's got a superpower, man.
Well, what is yours, Craig? So I have some context here.
Mine is very dysfunctional. Mine is, I grew up in a very troubled household, and when they've actually done studies on this, that when you grow up in an environment like that, as soon as you're putting the key in the door when you come home from school, you have to be able to assess, like within fucking seconds, what you're walking into. Like, is this a good day? Is this a bad day? Is this a really bad day? Is there violence? How much? And you've got to be able to assimilate all that really quick to know, it's like a soldier going into war. He's got to, what does the battlefield look like? You don't have all day to figure that out, right? So when you grow up in a situation like that, you're very good at kind of like reading people, at sort of like, I'm from New York City, so this is not a New York City thing to say, but it's a very like West Coast, like feeling their energy. Mm-hmm. So I'm really good at like, getting a vibe off somebody early on in sometimes reading intent. So that's my non-musical superpower, my non-musical dysfunctional superpower, as I disclaimed. What's yours?
Well, I would say mine is focus. And I mean, I don't really think about that too much, but people always say, "Oh, you're so focused, Joe," and that can mean obsessed. But if I get an idea in my head about something, and it can be a song idea, it can be something I want to record or whatnot, I'll just mull it over in my brain, like for many, many hours and many, many days until I solve the problem that thing is not done. So I think that would be something that I do, that I guess you could call it my version of that.
Yeah, well, you're probably a super, like, I don't know what your IQ is or anything, but I would bet your IQ is very high. You're probably a super intelligent person, and that focus and sort of obsessiveness, it often goes hand in hand with that, and your desire to get stuff done is clearly very high. So, I think that's a great superpower, actually,
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't have a choice. That when something interests me, it makes me excited. I just can't stop thinking about it.
That's great, man. As long as you're thinking about positive shit, that's all fantastic. Hobbies or interests outside of music? Do you have any?
I love reading. I love fitness and nutrition. I love reading about philosophy, psychology, and history, and biographies. In Australia, I used to love the ocean and the water, canoeing, that kind of thing, but I don't do that so much anymore.
Yeah, that's tough with your schedule, but the fact that you're doing all this other stuff is great, man. Especially the fitness and nutrition stuff, man. You have no idea how that's going to pay off for you as you're older, and you'll just look on Facebook and all the people you went to high school with, and you'll see how it's paid off for you. But trust me, just your health, your ability to move around is going to be so much higher. It's a big benefit. 3 more questions, Joe. Favorite place you've traveled? You've literally been all over the world.
Oh, everywhere's different, and that's what I think makes the world an interesting place. So I just got back from the Czech Republic, and I loved the people there. I was fascinated by, the history and getting a feel for what people's lives are like now compared to 30 years ago.
Very different, yeah.
And the first place I went to in Europe was Finland, and I have this special connection with like Scandinavia for some reason. I just remember going there, and I was a teenager, and I'd play a show, and then I'd meet all these people, and I'd take pictures with them, and I looked like all of them.
Yeah, you are kind of Scandinavian, Nordic looking, yeah. Yeah,
I got very fair skin and blue eyes, and I feel like that's where my lineage, there's some kind of historical roots up there. Although, in my family tree, it's a lot of, Scottish, Irish, English, that kind of thing. But I really love like Sweden and Finland. I haven't really been there a long time in the cold, and I don't like cold weather, so that's a strange thing. But I was in Sweden one time in the summer, and man, it was like the most incredible place. I loved it.
There's a lot of cool music out of this, like stoner rock music, actually, out of that area. Sweden and Netherlands and places like that. I mean, tons of it. I'm not talking about the death metal stuff because that comes out of there too, but some real good, like just psychedelic rock. Toughest decision you've ever had to make, or hardest thing you ever had to do?
That's a really difficult question because, I left school when I was 15, and people would think that's a really tough decision, but for me, it was like easy.
Yeah.
It was, I got accepted into a music college, and I thought, I'm going to go on tour because I had all these opportunities to tour. And I thought, I can always go to that college if I want. Why would I stay in my small town and go to the school and just miss out on so much school because I'm doing gigs anyway? So that decision comes to mind. Moving to America permanently, alone, away from my family, that's
a tough decision.
Yeah. And again, it was easy to make because it wasn't really a decision. It just happened.
Sure.
But staying here and deciding to live away from my family, that's a big decision that I'm really proud of making because I think it was the right thing for my career, and also the right thing. My brothers and sisters look at me kind of over here pursuing my dreams, and I think they respect that, and so yeah, I would say that would definitely be the most difficult decision.
Yeah, I think that's a real big thing. Have your folks been over here since you've been on your own?
Yeah, my dad hasn't been over. He's a bit of a farm body, but mum loves coming over here, and my siblings have all visited, and the last time they were here, we drove from Nashville to Yellowstone.
Oh wow!
We drove the south way and then the northern way back. So, doing things like that is really special, and
very much. And
they love it over here. It's pretty cool.
And that Pacific Northwest is like no other place in the world. It's amazing. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, all those areas are beautiful. Yeah.
Joe, I have one more question. Best advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you?
Best advice I've ever been given. I don't know if this comes off as sarcastic, but I remember, my mom has always been kind of, I would go out on tour and she'd come on the road with me before I could drive. And people would say, "Oh, Joe, you're such a great talent." And she'd say, "Oh, he needs to go home and split the wood."
That's awesome.
And I remember going to my mom and saying, "Oh, Mom, something, something, something." And she'd say, "Harden up, princess." And, I think
Mom sounds very cool.
Tommy Emmanuel has been as we talked about, a great mentor and inspiring person in my life. And he had written on the bottom of his guitar, "Life's too short for pissing and moaning." And I think this is a complaint, but I think a lot of people complain, and it annoys me. I think there are things to genuinely be upset about, and very unfortunate things that, of course, are part of life for some people more than others. But I think I just don't like complaining and try not to complain. So when my mom said that, and when I see Tommy's written that on his guitar, I think that's good advice.
Harden up, princess. I love it. That's the best thing you've said all day. That's funny as hell. Hey, man, I can't thank you enough for your time. And, I didn't really talk about it, but, I've listened to your music, and you're a phenomenal player, and your stuff sounds wonderful. It's got a good energy to it. And, man, you can come. You're welcome. You can come back on here anytime, to talk more about your music, if you get a new album coming out or if you're doing something, and hopefully you'll be down here in Florida and we can connect in person. That would be wonderful, man. And, thank you very much for your time. I do know how busy you are, man. And
that'd be great, Craig, and appreciate you having me on. It's been a nice conversation, and hope everyone out there, with the headphones in or driving along listening to this is enjoying it, because I love listening to podcasts. I'm a podcast junkie, and I think it's a really amazing thing that the internet has allowed for these kind of conversations to be shared and enjoyed by people. And kudos to you for having the initiative to create the show. So thanks for having me.
Anytime, man. And let me tell you guys where you could find Joe online. Go to joerobinson.com. He's got a ton of stuff on his website. It's really good. He's got all his, literally everything there. It's a very comprehensive website. Or you could find him on Facebook. Just look up Joe Robinson, or on Instagram, same thing. Just look up Joe Robinson. It'll come up. He's the, bright smiling face with a guitar in his hand. So you won't have any trouble finding him. Listen to his stuff. Send him money. Buy his stuff. Buy his music on iTunes. Stream it. And sign up to his list, because when is your next album coming out?
I don't have a release date, but I'm recording it right now, so these things take time to get out into the world sometimes. But I'm working diligently on it, and I'd say it'd be in the kind of first and mid part of next year. Awesome.
And your touring schedule, is that on your website?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Great. So everybody go to joerobinson.com. Check him out. Joe, I really appreciate your time, man. I wish you nothing but continued success. I appreciate how smart you are too. It's always, I got to keep on my toes when I get someone highly intelligent like you. I got to make sure I don't slip. Thank you.
I don't really think of myself like that, but I'll take it. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah. Just say thank you. That's it, man. It's true. Everybody, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Thanks again to Joe Robinson for sharing part of himself and spending all this time with us. I really appreciate it. And go to Everyone Loves Guitar. Sign up to get notified about future episodes, along with some cool stuff for guitar players. Be nice, go play a guitar, and most of all, have some fun. Till next time, peace and love, and I am out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.